Hi, can you see me? So I wanted to do a video today, an informative video. Basically, it's going to be things that I wish I knew before I actually signed up to go to Motorcycle Mechanics Institute. So it's basically everything that I wish I would have known, and other thoughts and stories that I've found along the way. It's a big decision to spend, any amount of money on education, especially when there's so much information out there that you can that's just free and readily available. So there's, I guess I could just go through. I wrote down some topics. Let me set it there. Should you go to MMI? Obviously, that's going to be a really difficult question. There's a lot of questions that underlie that like stuff you need to know about yourself before things you need to ask yourself before you even consider going. First of all, do you have the money? It's expensive. Not only that, but the ultimate outcome. You got to think. A lot of people have this idea in their head that it's just going to be the coolest thing, and they have an image in their head of what they want themselves to look like, and they might feel like being a motorcycle technician, they're going to look cool, and they're riding motorcycles. It's image is one thing, but real life is real life, and I have some real life information. So basically, you got to ask yourself, are you mechanically inclined? Because if you're not, you shouldn't go. And I know that sounds weird saying that because, you're probably thinking, well, the reason I'm going is because I'm not mechanically inclined. All right, maybe I shouldn't say you shouldn't go, but, if you ultimately want to succeed in the real world, there's certain facts about certain people. Some people just get it. Some people just understand things that are mechanical, and I've always been that way. I can look at something, just about take it apart in my head and pretty much figure out how it works. So like I was saying, a lot of people, are thinking in their head that that they want to go because they're not mechanically inclined, and they can learn that there. You got to understand, some people just don't get it. So if you're not mechanically inclined and you think that they can help, they might be able to. They might not. You might just not get it. Do you have the ability to learn things and find information quickly? Like if you see an obstacle, you're like, do you make it a big deal, or you just get it done? You know how to get the information quick, and you know how to figure things out quickly. Also, the cost of the school and the tools. It's not cheap. It's pretty expensive to go to the school. Once you get out of school, you got to find a job to pay for the school, because guess what? The student loans, they don't go away. That will follow you. You do not get away from those type of student loans, and I can tell you for a fact, because it happened to me. There was a while that I just stopped paying my student loan, and and then there was one year where they were like, "Hey, guess what? We're taking your tax return," and I was like, "Oh, can we work something out now? You think we can work something out?" Because I didn't know they could do all that, but just it's information you need to know before getting into it. Ultimately, I'm gonna skip through some of this and hit a little bit on the end. You're gonna want to know what you're gonna make, like a technician with all their tools, with all the knowledge you need. Look up what they make first. And in the different industries, at a privately owned shop, at a dealership, whether it be a Japanese or Harley Davidson type of dealership, look all that up first. You want to know what you're getting into. I didn't. In fact, when I called back when I did, they were just all about like, oh, you're either with it or you're not. We're all die hard around here. So as a younger person, I kind of like fell into it and was like, oh, well, I am into motorcycles, which I was. I love motorcycles, always loved them. Um, so they're going to give you a whole song and dance of every single reason, talking to them, the associates at MMI, they're going to give you every reason why you should, and there's no reason you shouldn't. But they don't. They don't pre-screen anybody either. They're going to tell you could do it. They're going to be good. Like, you could do this. We know you could do this. Ultimately, man, they're about the money. They're about the money, and they're about that passing grade. When you get out into the real world, they might not care as much if you're successful or not, because they've got the money and they've got the fact that you passed with really good grades. I actually worked with somebody at the last dealership that I worked with. Really cool person. I'm not going to say his name. He was actually an instructor at MMI. And he told me certain information that didn't quite surprise me, but at the same time, I was like, wow, damn. Basically, he said it was like babysitting, and there was a lot of people in his class that had no business being there. So basically, you're going through the school, and eventually they set it up to where when you get later on in the school, they set it up like a real world experience, but it's still not. Because when you do something wrong in school, you get points knocked off. If you do something wrong out in the real world, you can get somebody's head knocked off. It's very serious. There's no room for mistakes when you get out into the real world. And people would just make mistakes and it's not a big deal, this and that. So, you got to really think about how bad you want it, and ultimately try to figure out if you want it before you attempt to sign up. Let's see. So MMI, they want to push you through. They want you to have passing grades. They want you to have good grades, because it makes them look good. You think when you're out in the real world, they're going to be standing over your shoulder like, hey, man, you're kind of doing that wrong. We want you to look good and be successful for yourself. No. Once you're out of that school, you're done. They don't care anymore. So if you pass with a good grade and everything, don't get it in your head that you're going to be a good technician. You're going to make it out in the real world. Don't assume that, because it's not. It's not a thing. It's not true. The cost of the school is I don't know what it is these days. I just know it took me what it seemed like forever to pay it off, pay my student loan off, and I finally have. But then you have your tools. You can't just borrow tools from people. You have to have your own tools in a real shop, real world. And that costs money. I don't use them anymore, and I will get to that. Another thing you want to consider when I wrap this up, I'm going to tell you my situation. I've probably got a few $1,000s worth of tools that I don't even use anymore, because I can't. Well, I can, but anyway, I'll get to that. So let's say there's something to be said about real world experience. So a lot of people learn better with hands-on, which MMI does that. Obviously, it's a hands-on school, but it's a lot. There's something to be said about real world experience working at an actual shop. So at a dealer, if you get your foot in the door, and let's say you start out as a builder, you can move your way up. If you're good and you know your stuff, you can move your way up quickly and end up getting certified with the brands that they carry. So ultimately, you're getting paid. Let's say you start out as a builder. You're still getting paid, but you're learning. So eventually you're learning and you're learning and learning. Eventually you get certified through the manufacturer, through the actual dealer. Because the dealers are obligated to maintain the equipment that they sell. And then you've got your private owned shops. So there's plenty of shops out there that aren't dealerships, that are privately owned shops that you possibly tell them you're going to sweep the floors. If you really want to learn about motorcycles, tell them that. Show them you're passionate about it and everything, and say, hey, look, I'll wipe down the tools, I'll freaking mop the floors, I'll do whatever. Just teach me. And you know what? I guarantee you're going to find somebody that's like, they look at their floor, they're like, yeah, I don't have time to sweep my floors. I'll teach this guy a little something. There's something to be said about that. And then maybe from there you work your way up to a dealer. But you're gonna want to like get an idea of the people that work there and everything before, and that's another thing. There's only so many motorcycle shops out there, independent and dealer, and the people that are working there are the people that are working there. And if you do get a job there, you're gonna have to get along with them. There's nothing to say you're gonna. Let's see. Yeah, so as far as MMI, let's say you call them up, they're not going to pre-screen you and tell you whether you're a good candidate to go there. They're gonna straight up be like, yes. They're gonna tell you what you want to hear to get that money. So basically, this instructor that I knew is telling me that like a lot of these people have no business even being there. And you know what? It bothers me because MMI is charging all these people money when they know damn well that they're not going to succeed in the real world. So that, I don't know, that kind of bothers me. I feel like it's turning into a long rant. But the student loans, yeah, don't mess with that, man. I didn't even finish the school. I didn't especially feel like I was learning I didn't feel like I was learning how much I should have been learning. I literally straight up and corrected a couple of instructors where I was right. And I'm not saying I'm the smartest person in the world. I just look at things differently, and I pay attention to how things should be, and you go by the book. It's another big thing. You got shop manuals out there that'll literally tell you exactly how to do everything. And not only that, but like you got all these measurement tools. There's so many different measurement tools, but you got to understand you're only doing one thing. You're checking the size in between this part and that part. That's it. So there's many different ways to measure clearance, but ultimately that's all it is. All these measurement tools are just, if it's out, it's out, and you replace it. A lot of people freak out, like, oh, measuring and this and that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to understand it all. It's not that difficult. Sorry. So as far as like mistakes, there isn't much room for mistakes at all. You have to be meticulous. You have to take your time. But at the same time, if you're working piecework, you're under the pressure of the clock. None of that makes sense. So, and not only that, but the piecework, it was the flat rate. Yeah, you got your flat rate hours. So let's say you're looking up a particular job, the hours that it tells you that it's going to take to do that, those hours were never made to make the shop money. They were made, the dealership, I'm sorry, if you're at a dealership and you have a certain amount of hours per job, that time was set up where basically, let's say you do a certain job, it's electrical, and you don't do it all the time, whatever. You get it done right. But the thing is, when they make those times up at the manufacturer, they have a technician that does it 3 times in a row, and they pick the best time. 3 times in a row, and they have everything set out, and most of the time when they're talking about doing engine work, they'll have the engine pulled out in the service manual. And let's say I'm working on a side-by-side. It will literally not tell you to take the engine out, but in the book show the engine on a bench. And they won't set the time for engine removal. So the time was never meant to make the shop money. The time was meant to compensate the shop for working on the actual products that they sell, or whatever they be, maybe Honda or Kawasaki or whatever. The last shop I worked at was Treasure Coast Honda Kawasaki, and so basically you're under the gun from the owner to make them money, but the time is based on a time where a technician in a clean shop with the tools set up, engine out, is doing this job 3 times in a row, and they're picking the best time. It's ridiculous, So it's not easy. You have to be really good at what you do to not hurt anybody in this industry and make money in the industry. So when I was working at the last dealership that I just mentioned, there's a guy that worked there for a little while. His name was John. He was Polish. Cool guy. I think he had just finished MMI. I think he had just finished, and he took BMW. Now, working with him, I could tell, not to be mean or anything, but he didn't have it. He didn't have it. Anybody that has it knows what I'm talking about. The ability where you just understand it. So here he is, spending all this money, paying off his student loans and everything. I can't imagine how much money he owes when he never should have went there in the first place. I mean, I hate to say it, but it happens, and they don't care. They'll take your money. You will pass. Will you actually make it in the real world? Probably not. I was particularly good at electrical work, and I liked doing electrical work because I liked the challenge. The mechanical stuff wasn't, as much of a challenge as the electrical. And you have to consider that too. You cannot just be good at tires. You cannot just be good at, diagnosing. You can't just be good at any one thing. You have to be good at all of it, and that includes electrical work. And that's another thing where some people just understand it. And I will tell you this, if you approach anything as far as motorcycle industry with any kind of fear, you're already beat. When you get into this, have confidence. If you know your stuff, have the confidence. Approach everything with confidence. There would be times the owner of a shop would be like, "Oh man, we got this real tough electrical problem," and I'm like, "Give it to me. Give it to me. I'll do it. Absolutely, I'll knock it out." He's like, "Really? Yeah." I'm like, "Yeah, give me that. Come on. It's what I do." And with that attitude, it actually helps approach the electrical problem more calm and everything. There's been multiple times where I've fixed something that somebody else had worked on and supposedly knew what they were doing, and then couldn't get it fixed, and then they'd bring it in, and I'd be like, I'd take a little bit of time, look, eventually I'd be like, okay, there's what they did wrong. And they'd be like, "Oh, how'd you do it?" I'm like, "Well, I'm good at what I do. I can't, it's not like magic. It might sound like it to you, but it's just, I'm good at it." Let's say, I'm going to leave off with the Busa. Actually, no, you know what? My situation is that I've spent, oh God, it sucks even talking about it. I've spent so many years and so much money in student loans and tools and everything. I got basically all my tools. I got my student loan paid off, and you know what else I got? I got torn ligaments in both my elbows. So I literally cannot even freaking be a technician anymore. I had to quit my job at the Treasure Coast Honda Kawasaki, and literally had to quit my job, and I had to give my ligaments time to heal up, and it's been a year and 2 months now, and they're just now getting to the point where they still hurt a little bit, but they're not in excruciating pain all day long. So, and you know what's the crappy thing is that I'm never going to be able to do that profession again. I know if I get back in there and start, you know, doing the mechanical actions with my wrists and whatever, you know, it's going to come back, and I just, it put me in a really, really weird place, you know, at this point, at that point in my career when I feel super confident. Anything that comes through that door, I can take care of, whatever it is, electrical, mechanical, whatever. And then having to actually quit your job and knowing that you're never going to be able to do that profession again. So, I mean, I guess consider that too. But yeah, okay, so let's say I got really good at electrical. I got really good at what I did. And somebody came up to me not that long ago, and let's try to make this last part quick. Somebody came up to me not that long ago, said they had this Busa that, you know, they weren't sure why, but it was just running like crap. It won't get out of its own way. And I was thinking back in my memory banks, and I'm like, I'm like, oh, ding. And the first question I asked him, I was like, hey, does it have a fuel management system on it? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, tell him to take it off, and then come back to me if it's, you know, not resolved or whatever. The next time I saw him, he's like, dude, oh my God. He's like, dude, he's like, he took that shit off and it ran like a rape date. So that's always, I love that, and I love helping people with electrical issues. And there are so many inherent electrical issues in the different manufacturers and whatnot, like the Honda with the electrical shifter on their four-wheelers. They often have that shift motor go out, but it'll actually literally bench test good. 6 volts or 12 volts, that you test it like they say it tests good, but it's not. And that comes from just a lot of experience. So I always enjoyed it. It sucks that I can't do it anymore. I love the challenge. So there's so many good things. So as far as back to, you know, if you should go to MMI, you have to decide that. You got to make up your own mind. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money in school. It's a lot of money in tools, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to succeed in that business. You can have a lot of fun too, man. If you're good at it, you know, some of the fringe benefits are riding almost every bike that sells out of the dealership. You know, you get to prep it or have somebody prep it, and you ride it before it goes out. But yeah. You know, if anybody has any questions as far as maybe things that other things that aren't in this video, stuff that you wish you knew, you know, before you signed up, please comment. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Just trying to make sure if there's any more information that I can provide. And I think that's about it. I hope this helps, because it's not for everybody. This Motorcycle Mechanics Institute school, or whatever mechanic school, you know, it's not for everybody. So just, you know, I'm hoping this helps you to figure out if it's for you. Thanks for watching.